Hello everybody, welcome again to the fourth meeting that we've had. This is the first one under our new name of the very catchy name of UDEN. Something that we'll all be having tattooed, I'm sure, by the end of the year. Hello, my name is John Dean, and on behalf of the committee, welcome to our fourth meeting. Many thanks also to our food sponsors tonight. The most popular thing we do here is food. It's good to know that we understand our audience. So thank you to our food sponsors tonight, the University of Utah. That's very good of them to do that. Also to Grow Utah for the logistics and Zion's Bank for the wonderful location. We have another great meeting for you tonight, and that's a guarantee, right? Otherwise you can have your money back. We've got a new feature for you designed to promote networking called Hive Ignite, and another brilliant speaker for you. Local hero Steve Taylor is with us to talk about his experiences in the indie game scene here in Utah. And of course, at the end, we have a chance for you all to network with one another. Scary, I know, but it's a huge part of what we're all about in building a community. Tonight's meeting we had hoped would be streamed live for everybody, but technical difficulties, you know, technology being what it is. So we're actually recording it now for future generations to enjoy everything that happens here tonight. So we welcome those of you that aren't here and are following along online. Especially those in other parts of the state that can't travel downtown Salt Lake. But if you would like to tell us that you would like us to visit you, then maybe we'll come to your town and bring our show with us. And please, everybody, do interact with us after the event. We'll be showing links to our various social media pages during the evening, such as these ones. Hey, why not tweet that you're here tonight and loving it, especially the food. Also, we'll be posting some open jobs up here during the networking event. You'll see those up here on the slide. So if you have any open jobs, please let us know. We'll be happy to share them for you through our various channels, but also at each of these events as well. So we've been really busy since we met a month ago, and we've a lot to catch you up on. So let's begin with the big news since the last time that we met. Every year, there's one event that's, and nothing's happening. Isn't that great? Come on. Click. You know what I said about technology? This is great, I love it. This is worth it, trust me. This is worth it. Let me see if I get this going again. Hello, computer. Anytime's good now. There's one big event that's huge in Utah's video game industry, and it's... Pause. Talk amongst yourselves. So, this is what happens when you edit right before the meeting, right? So, and... Oh, come on.
No, I'm really enticed now.
Come on. What if you all gather around my laptop? This was working earlier. How many times have you heard that? Come on. Come on. There we go. I'm just going to have to run over there to change the slides. So every year there's one event that's huge in Utah's video game industry. Something that matters and represents the pride and the integrity and the hard work of hardened designers, programmers, artists, musicians, and producers. An event so great that these developers lose sleep over it every year. They know that a poor showing reflects poorly on them. What could it be? Could it be E3, the industry's big event next week in Los Angeles? Could it be Salt Lake Comic-Con? Perhaps the launch of a major new gaming device? No, we're talking about the Utah Game Studio softball tournament. Check. Of course, it's the major event on the video game calendar, and this year, after it was hotly contested by all the local greats, the shock outcome was that WildWorks took home the much treasured prize. So controversial was this result that I can reveal exclusively here tonight. This is why UDEN's co-chair, Clark Stacey, is not here. He is in fact in hiding for fear of revenge from the other game developers who are here that also took part. Rumor has it that SmartBomb changed the name of their company just to have a chance of winning. Lifting the legendary game developer softball curse. But that's not the only shocking news we have for you tonight. Oh, God.
Really, we should just get around my laptop.
It's going to be a long night. Many of you know this is the question that they get asked more than any other, right? Well, here is this month's update. You'll recall that last month we changed the name to UDEN, the Utah Digital Entertainment Network. And the good news is that decision has allowed us to purchase a domain and a hosting service, all of which was kindly donated like everything else. And the waiting is over. Yes, we have a website. Yeah. Here it is. That's our live page, starring all of you. No, it's not a live shot of the meeting, but if you've been to any of our prior meetings, the chances are that you're on one of our social media pages somewhere now. After all, digital entertainment creators in Utah are such a good-looking bunch. It would be crazy not to show you off, right? Absolutely. Well, you can find our fab new website at www.uden.org. That's U-T-D-E-N, because UDEN was taken in every possible form. Somebody told me it means something like loser in Swedish or something. But right now the site's pretty basic, but hey, it's live. Also, note you can actually officially sign up and join us now on the website. It's a simple form, but it means we can actually keep a formal register of our members this way. So please go ahead and join. Now the website needs to get built out, and we've had a few people offer to do this for us, but unfortunately they've all been too busy to take it on when it comes down to it. So if there's anyone here that would like to volunteer to help build out the website and keep it maintained, then please come and see me during the networking event tonight. We do have big plans for the website, as it will be central tool for helping everyone navigate the digital entertainment community here in Utah. For example, we aim to include a jobs board, a company listing, individual bios, a listing of the groups that all meets connected to digital entertainment, and a calendar of events across the spectrum of digital entertainment in Utah. It'll take a while to come together, but obviously having the website live was a starting point. And this will be especially helpful for our colleagues who aren't in the Salt Lake Valley and can't come to these meetings, but the plan is to represent the entire state, not just the Salt Lake Valley. Because we have so many people interested in what we're doing, I wanted to refresh the goals that we set out originally for what we're doing with UDEN. Overall, we aim to be a single voice for all of those involved in digital entertainment in Utah: films, games, education, and more. There are many talented people here working in digital entertainment in the state, but we seem to be doing so mostly in small, disconnected networks. For a healthy ecosystem and a vibrant future, we need to build a community that's looking out for the entire sector, not just for individual interest. Now, with your help, don't make me plead, UDEN can build this community. Now, we won't do this by replacing anything that already exists. On the contrary, we want to be additive to help connect the dots between everything that does already happen, companies, services, groups, and help them become stronger by being connected in the ecosystem and part of that wider community. Now, UDEN's goals are big, but they are worthy goals, and it'll take time, commitment, and a lot of work, but we can summarize these goals into a few simple steps. We'll connect the digital entertainment creators and build the community. Networking events such as tonight just lay the foundation. We'll inform the membership about one another, about activities, job openings, contracts, about help members can get. We'll provide government agencies and the media with information about our sector. And we'll inform people outside the state about the great talent in digital entertainment being created here in the beautiful state. Last but not least, we're going to grow the sector. We'll encourage new business starts, collaborations and innovations, and promote all of you as world-class creators of digital entertainment so we can finally put Utah on the digital map. We have a lot of work to do, but there is a catch. This is the catch. Without your support, none of this matters. Good people have tried something like this before and failed. If you like what we're planning to do here, then you must help us make it happen. UDEN isn't me, it isn't the committee, we're just willing volunteers. Help us, help you, help us all. We need you to support our activities, so help us by doing something that gets us to these goals faster. Be a part of this in whatever way you can. Keep coming to these meetings and taking part. Offer to help other members if they have needs that you can supply. Volunteer to be on one of our committees, just a few hours a month. And if you see one of our social media posts, please share them in your own networks. Some of you are doing this already, and it really makes a difference. If you can afford to sponsor food in an event like this, or to host one of our meetings at your location, again, please reach out to us and let us know. Maybe you can help us compile a list of the companies and groups, dates of upcoming events, and so on. You know, we all have a little piece of this pie, and if we put it all together, we actually have a very big and very well-connected picture. Be an advocate for UDEN. If we're truly a community, then we can do this together. Let me thank all of you for your help and support, not least for turning up to these meetings. And my hope is that we'll get more help and more support in the coming weeks, months, and ultimately years. You'll be pleased to know that it's now time for me to stop talking. It's now time to hear from our guest speaker tonight. Our guest speaker tonight is Steve Taylor, with the company he founded. He's the president of Wahoo Studios in Orem. Steve and his team have long been a fixture of the Utah game development scene and have created and shipped multiple original IPs, as well as licensed and contracted products on consoles and PC. You know, Wahoo lists the great and the good among their clients, including EA, Disney, and Microsoft. One of the nicest, most talented people in Utah game development scene, it's my pleasure to welcome tonight to UDEN, Steve Taylor. Steve? Hopefully it's going to work.
Hi. I have a UDEN tattoo, but now that the website is UDEN, I feel like I need to have a T added to my tattoo. So hi, I am the founder and current president of Wahoo Studios. I'm going to describe why these two images matter. The one on the left there is the logo for Wahoo Studios, which is really our company, and the one on the right is a brand, and I'm going to explain how all that works. I'm going to present a little bit of history, a little bit of background, explain what we do, and talk about a couple of problems that we face as a studio and things that we don't think are problems, so we'll see. So this was us a year ago. So to be blunt, we had a tough year, and we did some layoffs, and these are not all of my current employees. In fact, one of those guys is working for Wildworks and helped them win their frickin' softball. So yeah, so this was us, and I'm really proud of the team that we built, but we still have a core team doing the work that we do. So what is Wahoo Studios? We are an independent game development studio. We have been around for 14 years, and we do everything. We build games from scratch from nothing to completely done and shipped, and we do everything in between. We started out doing things like writing contracts for less, in fact. We did nothing but go write this dialogue, and we went and did it, and we did art and level building, and we've done programming and ports and everything. So in terms of contract work, we can do whatever, and we have for 14 years, and it's been great. So we also found that as we were working with publishers, they earned the right by paying us to be able to tell us exactly what to do. And when the publisher says, make that pixel green, then dang, we make it green, even if we don't like it. So we found that when we worked on our own internal creative ideas, we wanted to have a separate brand in order to do our own thing. And first of all, we could always do things not subject to the direction of a publisher, but we wanted to be able to build our own name and build our own brand, so that's why we created Ninja Bee to be separate from that. So Ninja Bee is the other half of our studio, and we really do, it's all the same people, it's all the same company, it's just a brand, and really it's about half the work that we do. Half the work is contract work, half the work is completely internal, creative, self-funded work. So we do our own creative direction, we build and develop and retain ownership of our own IP. We work on projects that publishers maybe wouldn't touch because it's a little bit riskier, but we also have the potential for more reward, and we come out the end of that owning our work, which is great. As Wahoo Studios, this is a small piece of, in 14 years we've done tons of titles, so this is a small piece of some of the things that we've done, just to give you a kind of a glimpse there, and then this is a small glimpse of the things that we've done as Ninja Bee. Let me talk a little bit about IP development, because that's one of the funner things that we do. We create characters and worlds and stories and build them, and we own them when they're Ninja Bee. We do this for contract work as well, but when it's Ninja Bee, then we retain ownership. Here's an example. We built a game called A Kingdom for Keflings in collaboration with Microsoft. Well, sort of. We built that game, we funded it, Microsoft was where we released the game, and we tied into their avatar system, and that was a big deal to us. But this is our title, and we own it. And we developed downloadable content for it. We developed a sequel, which is what this is World of Keflings is the sequel to A Kingdom for Keflings, and we're working on a third version of the game right now. So that's an example of, we built something that we care about and that we love, and we're still working on it. So here's another example of IP that we put a lot of time and effort and attention into. This one we did actually with Sony, or at least, yeah, we did this with Sony, and we may or may not do future games based on the same IP in the future. So that's a fun part of our jobs. Here's an example of, we took our IP and collaborated with Microsoft to do avatar items on their avatar system, and that was pretty interesting. So my background is, I've been in video games for 19 years. Before that I was doing other software development in Utah, but I've been in video games for 19 years, working for Les's company, Sapphire, and initially, and I was there for 6 years and left and started my own company. And since that time I've been running Wahoo Studios. So that's my background. All of that is in Utah. And so I have lots and lots of Utah background. I was in Spain for a while, so I've been around the world and I keep coming back to Utah. I like it here, my family's here. I definitely would like to be part of building more game development power in Utah. I made this chart a couple of years ago to illustrate what I had learned over a long period of time about the history of game development in Utah. And you don't need to be able to read this, you probably can't read it. It's here just as an illustrative example of how long and big our history is. People outside of Utah have no idea how much game development happens in Utah and how much has happened. Sculptured and Evans and Sutherland were here, what, 20-something years ago, and they were a big deal, and they spawned studios, and those studios spawned studios, and it's been huge. I was asked to talk about the changes that I've seen within Utah, and this is the introduction to a concept, which is, what has changed? Well, it used to matter that all of these, or all of the people at the top of this chart, were professional, traditional game dev studios. And what matters now, and what has changed, is that most of those guys are gone, some of them are still here, but what we see now is something more like this. 1 million smaller studios doing relevant, serious work. This is a really butchered screenshot, sorry, from the Utah Games Guild website. That list on the left scrolls and scrolls. There's tons of studios in that list. There's professional studios that aren't on that list. The actual amount and individual number of groups of people making games in Utah has exploded, and that's been a big change that I've seen. And it's become, instead of you have to be either Disney or go somewhere else, now it's, hey, you can be 15 people, you can be one person, you can make games, you can make money, you can be a professional even if you're doing it on your own. So that's been a huge change from my point of view. So I'm going to first focus on Utah Valley. I think right now we're the only studio in Utah Valley. I think didn't used to be the case. People come and go, but most of the game dev companies are in Salt Lake City. So what's been our experience working in Utah Valley, which I think is unique to us? There are people who live in Utah Valley who want to make games, and so they will find us and prefer us and hear about us in the first place, which is a big advantage to us when we're looking for people who want to be making games. But then, of course, we also work very hard on our company culture and try to make it a great place to work. So when people do come there, then they stay, and we do get people commuting down from Salt Lake because we are a great place to work in addition to being in a good location that we prefer. We being the owners and the company, I have people who've worked with me for 9, 10 years at this point, and they're really part of the culture that we've built, and they prefer to be in Utah Valley, so our plan is to stay in Utah Valley. We do have proximity to a few important entities within the industry, including BYU and UVU, and that sometimes works to our advantage. There are some downsides. When clients come to visit us, which happens from time to time, and they have to drive down to Orem from the airport. It's 45 minutes, but that doesn't matter as much as I think. We've never heard anyone complain ever about that, and really they're used to it. If I were to go to see Microsoft, I would fly into Seattle and I'd drive 40 minutes to get to Redmond anyway, so everybody's pretty much used to that. It's not a big deal. It is out of the way for some Salt Lake City industry events. I had to drive up to Salt Lake to lose the softball tournament. And this event I had to drive up here, but it's like maybe once a month. The thing is, most of the time it doesn't matter. Orm's great. We get our work done, we communicate with our clients online, we do the great job that we do, and it kind of, in some ways, doesn't matter where we are. We could be in St. George. So most of the time, 85, 90% of the time, it's not really relevant where we are. We're just happy to be in the States. So let's look at a bigger view. What are the benefits from our point of view to being in Utah? And really, some key things are, there's a huge game dev community here that nobody knows about. Anybody who is just starting to work with Utah Studio says, yeah, you know, I was surprised to hear that there's an EA studio here. And we're like, yeah, I don't think you know that there are a dozen big studios and 50 tiny studios in Utah. So that stuff matters to us, not just emotionally, but also in practical ways. We occasionally collaborate with other studios around here. We've done work with EA and Disney and other people on projects. We sometimes hire people. If somebody's leaving a group, then we're an option for them to come work for us. If we let people go, then they have places to go, which is great for them, and we certainly care about that. We are part of community gatherings like this event here today, and that matters to us. There are also organizations that are relevant, like the IGDA, which is, yay, Josh, and which is important. And IGDA does things like the Final Burn events at the end of the game development year, basically. And there's the Utah Games Guild, which is putting together databases and connecting people and doing awesome stuff. That's another Josh. The Utah Indie Games Group is really important to me. I've been part of that group for a long time. Greg runs that group, but there's 50 people at every event. They get together, they show their games. Man, I love that stuff. And it's a real advantage from my point of view of being a game developer in Utah. So we also really like the strong schools here. We hire people straight out of U of U, out of BYU, out of USU. These schools are great. They have great programs. The EAE program at the U of U is very highly rated, nationally rated, very, very high quality program for game development. And that is super relevant to us. There's also non-game technology strength in Utah that we tap into as much as we can. It's occasionally difficult to get somebody working at an existing family software development company to quit and come work in games because they're used to a certain way of doing things and a certain set of expectations. But we occasionally succeed, we occasionally bring people into games, and that's great for us because there's a ton of experience here. We also go to events. There's a JavaScript meetup in Salt Lake, there's a JavaScript meetup in Orem. I love those things, even though those people are probably never going to work for me. They are intelligent, capable people with a lot of cool ideas, and we love connecting with that. And that's really strong in Utah, in my experience. So, this is actually the end of my presentation. I was asked to talk about what are the challenges we face and what do we need as a studio. So, in order to do that, I have to split things up again into what we need as Wahoo and what we need for Ninja Bee. Remember, Wahoo is contract development, and Ninja Bee is internal self-published, as much as possible, creative works. So let's talk about what we need. And really this slide is too complicated. It boils down to, as a contract studio, we need contracts and we need people to execute the contracts. And it's as simple as that in concept, but in practice, it's difficult to find the work and it's difficult to really get somebody to sign on the dotted line. And that's a challenge that we face for sure. And we also currently face, it's hard, I spend years and years building a collection of fantastic people, and when we run into trouble and we lose a couple, then it's hard to rebuild that, and that's a problem that we face as well. But again, being part of the Utah community is often an advantage in that area as well. The thing that is maybe more emotionally interesting to me is, what does Ninja Bee need? and it really boils down to one concept, which is discoverability. And I want to choose that one word to say, that's it, it's discoverability. But what does that mean? I need people to find my games, to hear about them, to see them, to download them, in some way care about the fact that my games exist. If you're an independent developer, you know that this is the first problem, and the second problem, and the third problem. It's all of the problems that you face as an independent developer, is getting somebody to care about your games, to know about them, and to try them out. There is nothing more critical for us. As an indie studio, if people can't find your games, you're dead. There are 500 to 700, depending on who you ask, games released per day on iOS. 500 games per day. There's just an incredible challenge standing out among that group if you're an iOS developer. And the same challenge exists on other mobile platforms, on Steam, on PC, and more on consoles. We have made we've built a good history releasing games as an independent on consoles, but that world is also getting, let's say, less lucrative and more challenging as well. So it's crucial, and it's the problem that we've got to solve. And what I don't want to do is say, okay, now I've met Jeff, because that's one guy who's going to buy my game, and now I've met Ross, and that's one guy who's going to buy my game. But what I need is to reach the world. So I'm really excited about connecting with other Utah people. What I really need is a way for my development and any efforts that we as developers are doing in Utah to have global reach and global impact and have somebody care about what I'm doing. And I'm not going to be prescriptive about how to solve that problem. I just need to solve it. So it's an interesting, if you want to come yell at me and tell me the answer's obvious and here's how you solve it, then great, I'd love to listen to you. Yeah, so that's the key thing there. I also believe that if there is something that Utah can do to say this is a partial or great solution to the discoverability problem, then I think developers will move here, and that is good. So, for example, I go to GDC and Maryland has a booth there. Maryland isn't saying, let's connect Maryland developers. Maryland is saying, let's promote Maryland to the world. And I go to GDC and I hear about it, and I see their games, and I care. And I think, as a developer, I think, wow, Maryland's on the map for me now, whereas before they totally weren't. So if we can try to address this problem for Utah developers in general, I think we can be on the map for a lot of people where we weren't on the map before. So that's it. Here's my contact information if you want to get in touch. And John, where did John go?
Yeah.
Do you want me to get the heck off the stage now?
Q&A.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to make sure. I maybe had more cat slides or something. I don't know.
Later.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm just going to bring up a browser. We're going to search for cat images. No. So that's my presentation. I would love to take questions and answer questions about anything that we talked about or the problems that I talked about at the end. I've been doing this for a pretty long time. In Utah the whole time. There are people in here with more Utah background than me, like Jeff. But I think I can answer a lot of questions about game development. So let's go. Yes?
If you were going to start over today, what would you do different than what you did when you started?
If I was going to start over today, what would I do different than when I started? One thing that took us a minute to learn, and by a minute I mean a couple of years, is there's nothing stopping us from just building our own stuff. We thought we had to follow everybody else's rules and do what they said and get contracts and get publishers to hire us. And at some point that wasn't necessary anymore. So the first thing was, hey, if we've got time, let's go build our own games. And the second thing was so that's the first thing. The second thing is build one game instead of trying. We were building prototypes and demos and concept pitch after concept pitch, trying to get somebody to bite on something. And that was okay, and I think we still need to do that to some extent. But dang, when we finally buckled down and built a game called Outpost Koloki, doors opened. And it wasn't just indie doors, it wasn't just self-publishing doors, it was contract jobs as well. So just build stuff, just go do stuff. And I had learned that already as a developer. The way you get hired at a game studio, a lot of people ask me, sorry, now I'm ranting. the way a lot of people ask me, how do I get into the games industry? I'll tell you the answer. Here's how you get into the games industry. Do something. Go do it. If you want to be a programmer, write code. If you want to be an artist, make art. If you want to be a musician, make music. Build it. Build a portfolio, show it to somebody, and they'll hire you. That's the answer. And it turns out that's kind of the answer for developers as well. You can't tell somebody you can do something. You have to show them that you're going to do it. And if we had known that day one, I think we would have spent way less time making prototypes and pitches and way more time building products. So that's the answer.
And did you raise capital when you first started?
No, we bootstrapped to the most incredible extent you can imagine. We had left Sapphire. To be blunt, Sapphire was in very difficult times. They were going from, I don't know, 150 people to 15 people really fast. So some of us weren't getting paid, and I figured, hey, I can not pay myself just as well as somebody else can not pay me. So there's an interesting story, but basically a friend of mine was leaving, and I said, let's go, I'm with you. So we bailed, and Hal knew I had wanted to make a studio for a long time, so Hal was very supportive. But we left, and we had nothing. We had no contracts, we had no jobs, and we didn't really have any money. So we got a basement apartment behind the Purple Turtle in Pleasant Grove, and office actually in the basement, and the rent was $300 a month, but we talked the landlord into $100 a month and then ramping up from there for 1,000 square feet, so like ridiculous, no money basically. And we found out that the place flooded every spring. We found that out in the spring. But that was fine. And we just started pounding the pavement. And I called Les and I said, help. And Les said, I got a dialogue writing job you can do for, I don't know, 50 bucks or I can't remember how much it was. And we're like, okay, yes. And that was another thing I learned is say yes to everything. So we said yes to everything for years and just started doing jobs. And slowly bootstrapped up from nothing. We traded back pay for desks and didn't pay ourselves and started to get a couple of contracts here and there and built up from there. So we did not have funding. And so today, the owners of the company are me and Lane and Brent, and we've all been owners for pretty much the whole time. A couple months after founding. I should be clear and say, I founded the company with Keir Knowlton, who is an awesome guy, and things just changed over time. So, go ahead.
So, between you and the founders, what was the total starting member size of the company, and how did you work out the legal arrangements of how that company was going to operate and how pay was going to work and those kind of things?
So the question was, what was the starting size, and how did we work out the legal details? There were two of us originally, just me and Keir, and we put some desks up in an office and started writing documents and started calling people, started emailing people. And it was very cowboy. People had told us it's going to be hard, and we said, yeah, and they said, no, it's going to be harder than you think. And we said, yeah. Well, it was 10 times harder than that, and we had no idea what we were doing. So initially, we didn't really solve any of those problems. And we just had to kind of figure them out one at a time. When suddenly we had employees waiting for work, or not employees, we had contractors. We had come out of a situation where people weren't getting paychecks, and so we swore we would never do that, and we have never done that. In 14 years, I have never missed a payroll, ever. I have unfortunately had to do layoffs, but I've never owed anybody money. So we hire contractors. And when we ran into problems like, well, I don't have work for that guy, then I'm going to tell him in advance, and we had to figure that out on the fly. We had the advantage that Keir was more of a design type, and I was more of a tech type, so that was pretty obvious. And we immediately realized we needed a business guy. We immediately discovered that I hate that side of things, and so we brought Lane in. We said, we need somebody like Lane, so let's keep looking. Yeah, boy, if only we could find somebody like Lane. And then eventually we just asked Lane, and he said, sure. So Lane joined us and did the business side. And then a few months later, Brent, who had actually left Sapphire, so that explosion on my chart way back there, I don't know how to back up. technology, there's in the middle of it is Sapphire going pow into like 8 studios, and one of them was a studio that Brent started, and things didn't work out the way that they had hoped. So he was doing contract work with us. Again, one of the cool things about Utah, there's so many people and we all know each other. There's really nothing stopping me from working with you on that, with that guy, and it's great. So we were working with Brent on something, and then we said, hey, why don't you join us? So he joined us as a third partner, and he had an art background, and then we really business, art, tech, and Brent and I do design. Then it was great. So did I answer your question, or did you want more about the legalities of it?
Cowboy is an acceptable answer.
The
reason I asked this thing is that when you have like a group of people who are kind of close and you get together, then you start talking about the ramifications of how things get paid, and if one person's got an idea or they work harder than the other person, it sounds like things kind of just happen naturally for you. But
yeah, and we've had arguments, but we also we're very careful to work with people who we like working with, and I am careful to work with people I like working with. So we argue and we figure it out. Kira and I have more of a let's fight it out approach, and Lane and Brent and I fight some as well, and we just figure it out. Today it's been 14 years, so we've got it figured out mostly, but in the first few years it was tough. And fortunately, before Kira and I started, we did agree to some principles, like we will never miss a payroll, we will let people know way ahead of time, and we have always, even when we did recent layoffs, we let people know that we were in trouble. And I was astounded, and still to this day I'm grateful to my employees for sticking around according to their ability to stick around. If I say, you know what guys, we knew a year ago that we were going to run into some problems, because we do cash flow projections and we know that the work is drying up a little bit, and so we explain to people, in a few months if we don't get more work then we might run into trouble, and we'll let you know, and we did. And we respected them enough to tell them that, and they in turn stuck around and gave us a lot of faith. So that was part of that principle that Kira and I started with on day one, was let people know what's going on. So we did agree on fundamental stuff, and that helped a lot, and then occasionally we argued. So I think there was, yeah, Ross.
Hi, Steve. Yeah.
Hi, Ross.
Been a long time, it's been about 10 plus
Yeah, I should come give you a hug.
It's been a while, so I'm kind of curious as to catch up with history a little bit, but I'm curious as to about 10 plus years ago when we picked up the phone and called, we talked a little bit and things got in motion, and I'm kind of curious if you look back over those 10 years, what you sort of view as the critical path moments for the company, both good and bad, I guess, and where you, so that you're standing here today?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, in our history, what were the critical moments, good and bad? And I think I could pretty safely say that connecting with the Live Arcade group at Microsoft, and for people who don't know, this is Ross. He was one of the people who created Live Arcade a long time ago, and was absolutely crucial in making it happen. So, weird story. I knew Ross already because he was at the Microsoft studio that was in Salt Lake, and so we had met. And so we were building what we thought was a prototype to sell to a publisher. And in our list of publishers to talk to, one of them was Microsoft. And so we were talking to Ross at Microsoft, and he said, yeah, that's cool, I can connect you with people, and maybe we'll publish this, but you know what you need to do is you need to look at Live Arcade. That moment, right there, Ross saying, you need to look at Live Arcade, I don't think there's a bigger point in our history, inflection point, because we didn't know what it was, they showed it to us, we were very console focused, we love consoles. So here was an opportunity for us as a small independent studio to build our own game on our own rules and release it on our own. It took us about 30 seconds after hearing the pitch to say, yes, we want to be on Live Arcade. And a huge future resulted from that. So that was a pretty big deal. And then we had some big contracts that were maybe not $10 million contracts, but they were big to us and they made a difference. We did a contract with EA that helped us grow from, well, we were like 30 at the time, and we grew to 45 or so. And that was a great contract and really beneficial for us. So that was a pretty big deal. And we had a contract go south in a bad way, like a just really bad blood publishing deal. And that was a negative experience that didn't kill us financially, didn't really hurt us too bad, but really affected my view of working with publishers and who we work with and how badly things can go potentially. So I'd say those are some pretty key points.
If you look over like the last, say, 2 to 4 years, certainly the mobile revolution and so forth, is there anything significant in those past 4 years, again, either good or bad, that has been a real milestone moment for the company?
It's hard to say. So the question is the same, but the last just couple of years. It's hard to say that there was a moment on mobile, but mobile has changed our lives. We don't know how to make money on mobile. So yeah, I think a lot of people don't. And admitting that to ourselves was never a moment, but was an experience, was something we had to learn. We don't know how to make money on mobile. We are not making a mobile game right now because we don't know how to make money doing that. And that has been a huge shift for us. And with so much of the industry focusing on that, some of our contract work went away, but that's been a big shift, really difficult to deal with. Indie development getting huge. There's 10 billion indie companies all over the universe, and competing on those terms is really difficult. So that's been a huge shift. Not a moment, but the last couple of years. So when I look at that slide I showed of all of my family and losing my family, it had a lot to do with the industry in the last couple of years changing in slow way, or in over a year ways, not individual moment ways. We do a lot of work with Microsoft, and we love working with Microsoft. And there was a moment when a particular channel of work that we do with them, contract work, dried up for a while, and that was pretty painful. That was a bad moment for us, and kind of felt out of our control. So, and I think, I was talking to Jeff about doing this presentation, and anytime Jeff says, "What have you learned?" I have the disadvantage of having to say, I think I've learned how much I don't know. In 18 years ago, let's say 17 years ago, I had been working at Sapphire for a couple of years, and I got to go to GDC. GDC was a miracle. It was nirvana. It was thousands of developers talking about making games. I just couldn't believe it. I got to go listen to Miyamoto talk about Mario, and it was incredible. And the next year it was pretty awesome. And the next year it was pretty awesome. And by about the 5th year, so I was actually doing presentations. My 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, I was standing up in front of people saying, "Here's how you make games." And I started to realize that everybody was saying the same thing every year, and that things were more complicated than I thought. And what I have spent the last 20 years learning is how much I don't know, and how many problems are out there that I don't have solved. So whenever somebody says, "What have you learned?" the answer, unfortunately, is partly how much I have still to learn and how many problems I still have to solve. So some things I have figured out, and I'm happy to share those with anybody, and I'm really happy to be part of the community. Very happy to contribute to the community in any way I can, and I would still very much like to learn from all of you guys what problems you have solved and how you're making games in your time. So, John standing up, that was an awesome ending, right? That was pretty good for all. Okay, thanks very much. Come talk to me later.
This was my original intro for you, Steve.
All right.
And there is Steve, right in the middle. So thank you, Steve. That was fantastic, and I really enjoyed that. And discoverability being the key takeaway there. So discoverability, yes. And so if we can figure that out, are we really going to share that? Of course. I mean, of course we are. It's obviously the correct answer. Of course we are. So now it's time for something new, something we're planning to make part of all of our future meetings. We know from your feedback that networking is one of the most valuable parts of these get-togethers that we've been having, and so it also has its challenges too. Can you really go up and talk to everybody after the event? How do I really know that the person I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes talking to has actually got of anything that might be of interest to me? So to help that, we're starting a segment tonight that we're calling Hive Ignite. Catchy, see? We'll go with the catchy names. The idea is that we'll give time at each meeting to a handful of members here to tell us a little bit about themselves and what they do. So maybe they have a service to offer. Maybe they have an event coming up that they want to tell you about. Perhaps they have a need and would like to ask for your help. It's pretty much up to them what they want to talk about. But the format's going to be speed pitch. The idea is that we'll give you 3 minutes to make your pitch and identify yourself so that members can come and find you afterwards for any follow-up they might want to have, or at least to know, you get put on their radar. So tonight we have 4 individuals coming up to speak with you, and I will be interrupting them at the 3-minute mark. And at that point in time, I expect them to stand down with grace. Not have to be wrestled off the podium. But we're going to begin the Hive Ignite, and the first one up tonight is Adam Seidel. So please join me in welcoming to the first Hive Ignite. This is Adam from Future House Publishing. Adam.
Tell me when to go. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so my name is Adam Sidwell. This is what I do. I'm a visual effects artist by day, and I just finished up working on the World of Warcraft movie at Industrial Light and Magic, which was pretty fun, and I've been doing that for about 10 years, but I recently came to Utah because there's this great book called The Martian, which was self-published, which is now going to be a huge film directed by Ridley Scott, starring Matt Damon. Has anybody read it? Okay, highly recommend it, really awesome. So I love stories, and over the past few years we're just launched this company. We have 7 books out right now, another one's coming out next week. We're pushing to get 30 by the end of the year. And we feel like we've had some good successes, like got a couple on some bestseller lists on Amazon. We're doing young adult, sci-fi, fantasy, and we've had some really good success with sales and been able to hire some people. So we feel like books are the minimum viable product for stories, and there's multiple potential avenues for growth, like games, film, TV, all sorts of things, and those are all different possibilities. In fact, I just sold movie rights for adaptation to our first book, which I wrote, to Orson Scott Card, and his producing partner, which is Peter Johnson here in Utah. So I'm hoping that we might be able to film some of that here in Utah. But it's just a really good way to build a media empire. And so, because it starts with the story. So if any of you have games and you want to consider doing some transmedia things with the novelization of the games, come talk to me, and we can connect you with an author or make things happen. We're really excited about that space and excited about the possibilities there. And that's me. Okay, any questions before the bell goes off? Okay.
Very impressive start there, Adam, I have to tell you, with a minute to go. So that's what I'm talking about.
We have more to say.
You have more to say. I'm sorry, you're down now, that's done. So next I'd like to welcome Josh from Kickbomb, who's going to tell us a little bit about, well, I'll let Josh tell you. Josh, please come up. Here's Josh.
Hello. So I'm the owner of Kickbomb Entertainment, which is a local indie developer, but I'm actually going to talk about the Utah Games Guild a little bit tonight. Steve Taylor mentioned this briefly, where the Utah Games Guild is an organization that we founded about this time last year, primarily to give local indie game developers access to events like conventions that would otherwise be cost prohibitive. It's founded by the 3 of us, Tim Roberry, myself, and Lyle Cox. Each of us has done some indie game development here in the state. So Tim is co-founder of Too Many Legs Animation Studios. They've been working with an intellectual property called Binding. My studio is called Kickbomb Entertainment. I'm working on a side-scroller called Legacy of the Elder Star. And Lyle Cox is owner of Mount Olympus Games, working on a game called Together on Land Safe. Our main event, actually, that we started the Games Guild for was at Salt Lake Comic-Con last year. We did something called the Arcade. This was modeled after the Indie Mega Booth at PAX. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Indie Mega Booth, the basic model of the Mega Booth is that they buy up a big chunk of floor space and they sublet it to a bunch of indies. So this reduces costs for everybody and raises their profile as a collective. This was really successful. Okay, it looks like we skipped the slide. How do I go back?
Oops. Can we do it for you? Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
Previous. I really hope this doesn't count against my time. There was going to be another slide there. It was going to be totally awesome. You totally missed it. I'm so sorry. This was really successful for us. We were able to exhibit 13 locally developed games by 12 different studios from Utah at this show. And for many of these people, it was their first time ever having an opportunity to exhibit, so that was a really fantastic experience for everybody. We're actually doing another big event like this coming up this August. The first weekend of August, it's at Salt Lake Gaming Con at the Southtown Expo Center. They're expecting over 25,000 gamers, and this is going to be a much bigger production for us. We have a lot more space. We're going to have a lot more games there. We just opened registration for this on Monday. So if any of you are working on a game, working with the game team, and you're interested in exhibiting with us, hit up our website, utahgamesguild.com, and you can register there. It'll take you all of about 10 minutes. And we'd really like to get a bunch of people to join us because this is going to be fantastic. We're really excited about it. We're also doing some other initiatives beyond events. Just last month, we launched the Utah Games Guild database. This screenshot probably looks familiar. Steve had a version of this in his talk. What we're trying to do here is start to build a comprehensive database of Utah indie developers and games. So we have 22 developers and 30 different games represented in the database right now. We're constantly trying to grow it. If you have a game or a team that you'd like to see listed in the database, again, hit up our website. We've got a submission form up there that you can submit your information to us and we can get it listed. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. We'll be around, myself, Tim, and Lyle, if you have any questions. It's Lyle.
The alarm was just about to go off. Well done. That's very good. So thank you again. So Utah Games Guild is a great example of something that UDEN's not trying to replace. We're trying to connect dots here. So the games database, that's one more thing we don't have to do now. What we'll do is we're going to link right out to everything that they're doing, which again just then helps drive traffic to that resource. So to me that's a good example of what we're trying to do here. So next up we have some remarkable local higher education establishments. You've heard that mentioned, Steve mentioned that, and I'm sure many of you know that. And one that's very active in both film and gaming is Utah Valley University. So please, to talk more about what they're doing in digital media, please welcome Anthony Romrell. Anthony.
Started early.
Stop.
I'm thinking great testimony. I'd like to bear my testimony. This group is true. So just talk about our program just for a little bit. This year, the Board of Regents has awarded us as a program. So animation and games is now a degree. And so you can go to our program and get a degree in animation and games with an emphasis in really technical direction and technical art stream. So our big focus is not concept. It's not game design. It's getting more artists out there that can use Maya, can use Houdini, can use Unity, and be really proficient in the skills that they have. We're really big about finishing. So this year we had 3 groups finish films and then 2 games finished as well. So our sophomore group finished a 2D animated short called Dr. Calamari and the Cyborg Shrimp. And then our senior group, outgoing senior group, finished a film called Invalid Pin. And you can see these at vimeo.com/UVU animation if you'd like to see them. And our third group is our junior group, and they're finishing a film called The Ghost Next Door. So I think our #1 goal is really finishing. And as far as games go, we have finished a game called Cyber Dino, which is pretty cool because you go around shooting dinosaurs with cybernetic parts and then they ragdoll and kill them. And so it's kind of fun to have ragdoll dinosaurs. So thanks UD for letting us do that. And then we're working on another group with the Business Resource Center on our own IP called Apocalypse Then. And what it is you're the zombie killing bomb or reactor has been turned on and all the zombies have died except for one. And you're that zombie
And you're fighting every zombie slayer that has ever been invented in every game. So it's really a reverse zombie game. And we're having a real blast just creating that game. And as faculty, we create our own work. So we want to stay up with the technology as much as we can. So we've got Marty Clayton in the back, and he's working on a project called Alien Vacation. And it's a really kind of a great game, a throwback to something like Galaga. And then I'm working on a game called Attack of the Giant Cyber Shrimp, which it's strictly because I think it's funny, the name Cyber Shrimp. And I come up with titles for games, and I don't really, that's it. And then I make a game. I'm like, that's a great title, I'm making that game. And Marty's like, well, is it going to be fun? I'm like, I don't care. The title's great. The title's good. It's going to sell. So that's what we're going to do. We finish things and we work really hard. And my time's up. He's tweeting at me, and I don't care because you know what? This is testimony meeting, and sometimes people get up and okay.
So what have we learned tonight? We've learned that Anthony has a thing about shrimp. Thank you. Digital shrimp. I'm sorry, digital shrimp. Yes. Cyborg digital shrimp. So, okay, so you've heard me mention, UDEN's about creating a community, and in the gaming world there are many examples of this happening by state, but also in groups. And perhaps the best established of these is the International Game Developers Association. The local IGDA chapter is run by a very passionate advocate for local game development, and someone I admire greatly for all the work that he's done over the years on behalf of game development here in the States. So please, it's a great pleasure to welcome Josh Jones. Josh.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the main IGDA organization and what that's all about, and then I'll go into the details about the chapter. IGDA was a professional association that was started in 1994. It's officially now a nonprofit association, taxable under 501c6. They are also the group that started the original form of the Game Developers Conference. They've since sold it, but are still closely associated with it. And the reason it was started and its main goals are 4 parts. The first is advocacy. When it was started, the previous incarnation of what's now the ESA existed, but developers didn't have a voice in government or just to talk in general as an association rather than per company. So advocacy, to be a voice, to release white papers, to fight discrimination, to submit press releases about how the industry is doing, and to have speakers that go around and speak out. Then the next thing is providing networking and community. The IGDA is focused on gatherings and has been from the very beginning to help people share knowledge, solve problems, and get connections that can only help everybody. And it's not only on the chapter level, they can connect over special interest groups. And if you look at the IGDA website, you can see some of those special interest groups like writing, programming, game design, and more interesting topics like sex and games and things. The third one is professional development. This is about developing careers. A large chunk of the website is devoted to helping people break into the industry. And they also are one of the biggest supporters at GDC for roundtables and forums. And they also provide curation now on I think sites like Kickstarter, where you can actually go and look at, these are our curated IGDA Kickstarter projects that are recommended, which helps provide discoverability. The fourth one is international reach. There's not many other organizations that focus on connecting developers from the United States to outside of the United States. And we have this chapter has a sister chapter over in Japan, and there's it's always a great meeting party at GDC to meet all the other chapter leaders. So about the local chapter, there's a little bit of history. The first incarnation was a student chapter at the U of U, and then the main driver behind that graduated and left, and someone asked me, like, well, you're a professional developer now, why don't you make a chapter? So I was like, okay. And I've been doing that ever since. The IGDA, I put a lot of effort into it, but I get so much out of it, and you can too, by volunteering, speaking, being involved with events, and being a reception point. Like, if the general public wants to come and talk to game developers, and they don't know what companies are around, they often come to me. So, and as part of being on my advisory board, I can send those announcements and contacts and opportunities on to you. So if you own a studio, please contact me and I can help get you involved. We do chapter meetings every other month, and we do 2 big events that have been mentioned. Final Burn is our end of year party, which is a great time. And I've seen lots of even awesome business networking and deals going down there. If you have a game that you've been working on full time, you're welcome to come and show that at Final Burn, and you can come talk to me for the details or get on the mailing list. And then finally, the other one that we do is Global Game Jam, which is an event where if you want to try out what making a game is like, you can go to Global Game Jam for a weekend, and we'll guide you through that, and we'll get thrown on a team, and it's a lot of fun. So, Josh.
So many thanks to our presenters, and don't forget to seek them out in the networking at the end tonight. We're very close now to networking beginning. And if you'd like to take part in a future Hive Ignite, please let Jeff Peters or myself know, and we'll get you hooked up. So our committee has grown a little in these last few months, so let me refresh you on these fine folks and what they do. And as a team, the committee figure out our goals, and then each is responsible for a particular area. They're all volunteers, but they also seek additional volunteers to help with their specific areas. Now, I know not all of them could be here tonight, but I'll ask those that are to stand up when I mention them so you can see what they look like and hunt them down. I mean, maybe catch them later during the networking tonight. So beginning with Jeff, you've heard Jeff mentioned several times, somewhat of an industry legend. He's either to blame or to thank for some of the things that happen here in the state of Utah and game development. So Jeff organizes these meetings each month, and he's always on the lookout for speakers and interesting locations that we can take our meetings to across the state. Craig, where's Craig? The other Craig. Sorry, other Craig. Other Craig.
He took the call.
So he's in the kitchen. So Craig, other Craig, and Laura are responsible for promoting the work we do as a community to the media, to you, to our membership, and to government agencies, and also outside of the state. Ably assisted by Justin over there, so that's Justin as well. So again, if there's anything on the marketing or the promotional side, then Craig, who's taking a call, and Justin are the ones to speak to tonight. Other Craig and Brian, they're figuring out ways that we can support the existing educational bodies, as well as to help educate you, our members, in areas that you might want to help in, or you might want help in rather. They're also looking at how we can grow jobs in the sector, so that's really important work that they're doing. Chad, where's Chad? So Chad has recently joined to take charge of our social media, our Facebook and Twitter pages, and our website. Yay! And Clark, who can't be with here because he's in hiding, Clark and I tried to coordinate and help the committee members, as well as providing overall direction for the UDEN organization. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas, questions, or can offer help in any of the areas that we're working on. So next month, our meeting is on July 22nd. Do we know where it is yet, Jeff? Still a secret, big reveal coming, okay. But we're taking it on the road, so it won't be here. Remember last month we said the plan is now to maybe start going out and seeing some incubators, some development studios, maybe some film studios as well, and invite you all to come with us. And ultimately we'll be taking it further than just downtown Salt Lake as well. So opportunity to see other venues, meet with different digital entertainment creators, and also maybe some of the groups that we mentioned about connecting as well. So watch our Facebook page for details of that. We'd love to have you all come along come along for that ride. So we're going to do announcements now, so there's a few that I want to talk about in a moment, but if you have an announcement or something you'd like to share with the group, you don't get 3 minutes, you get about 30 seconds, but if there's something that you'd like to announce to the group or share, then please stand up now and come forward and we'll talk about it. Anybody? Any announcements from anybody? Justin, you have one, right?
Yes.
Very good. Justin.
Does your technology work?
You're not going to seriously take it apart. Just don't what?
Remember my slide?
It's yeah, but the other one you had. The other website, yes. The other one.
Well, I have two, so I might be back up here. But the first one is a users design conference called The Front. If you go to frontutah.com, some of you may be interested in this next week. It's all about user design experience. They brought in a whole bunch of speakers all across the country that are really high-end user developers. And then in a moment I'll be back.
Any other announcements that weren't pre-planned? Open to the floor right now. Anybody? Okay.
There's a Kids Code that's going on Saturday.
Sorry, so again, it's a kids code?
Kids Code, and it's on Saturday. It's at Newmont University. If you guys got kids, it's anywhere from 5 to 14. It starts at 9 in the morning.
9 in the morning, Newmont University. And can anybody show up?
It sure looks like it. It's from 9 to 5. Anyone's available. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Any others? Yes, sir.
So we're about a few weeks away from getting our app on iOS, and so we've got the development or the enterprise version of it. So if anybody wants to try it out, we'll give you 5 free movies, and you can download it. So look out for me in the social thing, and you guys can borrow any one of my movies. I got over 1,000, and so look for me and let me know if you find any bugs.
And the app is called?
Sagebin.com/iOS to download the enterprise app.
This is the man with the movies, remember. Don't ask him where he got them from. Just kidding.
I got the disc.
It's a good app. And it's coming out when?
So it's going to be on iOS in about 3 weeks, so we're just doing bug tests, and then it's already on Android. And
so Steve, this is discoverability right there. Sorry, what were you saying?
So iOS, Android, Roku. Right now this is for iOS testing. But if you have Android, you can download it now.
Very cool. Thank you. And there's one more. He's going to hit me? All right.
I'll run it. So I'm doing the Utah Games Guild with Josh. My name's Alex. In Steve's talk, he mentioned that Maryland had a booth at GDC, and I'm interested with Utah Games Guild in doing something like that. If there's any value we can add to studios or anybody here in Utah to have a booth at GDC that represents Utah, let me know what we can do to benefit you that way. Come and talk to me, and we can talk about getting something like that going.
Fantastic. Some of you may or may not know that we actually persuaded the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, to actually take a booth at GDC. I think it was for 2 years running. People would come by and they would say, we didn't know that people make games in Utah. And that was the typical reaction that we got. But I don't think GOED thought it was that well supported by us as the industry. So I think it's great. If we could get that going again, then I'm sure they would help contribute to that because it does promote the state. It's really good. Any other announcements from anybody? Yes, sir.
So we're making a game. We just entered a startup competition with Beehive Startups. Making a game. If anyone can vote via website, I don't know the website exactly. Start Madness. Do a search for Start Madness. Our company is Carrara.
Carrara Start Madness, and this was you don't know the website? Was it Beehive Startups?
Well, if you search for Start Madness, it's the Start Madness Start Fest website.
Start Fest website. Okay, so very good.
You can vote every day. Votes move us on to the next round as well as our pitching.
Vote often.
Yeah.
Very good. Good to see all these games coming out. Anybody else? Okay, then there's a couple of ones I've been asked to mention. One is, this is coming up in November, so plenty of notice here for you. But this is the Mountain West Capital. It's an event where they're going to choose some of the most promising businesses in the state of Utah. And the other is that it's a good way to promote your company, get your company profile out there and make contacts in business. And I know a lot of you are interested in the investment potential opportunities as well. There's going to be a lot of investors there also. So thinking about publicity for your products, we talked about discoverability earlier, then these are the type of events that this might not be your target audience, but certainly for building your business and maybe finding investment, that might be a good one to go to. You've already heard mention of Salt Lake Gaming Con. That was mentioned earlier, so again, that's coming up, and I think it's the website I looked today said $600. Is that right, guys? That's right. $600 for, and it's a great price to get a 10x10 space. So you know, the more that we as a community can support an event like this, then the more it becomes a regular fixture. So you know, really good work by the Games Guild on that. And this is Justin coming back again. 1 second, sir. Justin, this is you.
All right.
Again.
So I'm with Grow Utah. Grow Utah is a nonprofit that helps entrepreneurs in a bunch of different industries. One of the industries that we have a contest in every year is gaming, and typically we give away about $30,000 in cash and services to 3 winners. We've done that now for 3 different years. We're going to have another one that kicks off July 1st, so anybody that's part of the Utah Games Guild, any of the other people that we've heard mention, starting games, go to utahgamewars.com starting July 1st. We'll pick the winners about the first week in September. Next year we hope to get the winners maybe at the event that was just mentioned, but this year the winners are going to be at Comic-Con, so we'll have a booth. We'll highlight, showcase the winners at Comic-Con for you. But go ahead and enter again, utahgamewars.com. We're still trying to decide on the final cash prize amount, about $30,000 in cash and services.
Very good. You had a question, sir?
My question is about the Games Guild, and I'll just ask it real quick, just in case there are other people interested in this answer. For getting a booth, would it be possible to share with other people in the booth? I wouldn't be able to 10 by 10.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. See, that's what networking is called.
Done.
Sale, right? Okay, so that concludes the presentation part of the evening. So if there's any other questions that if you've got for UDEN or for members of the committee, then now's a good time to ask them, or you can talk to us afterwards in networking. We have one at the back. Yes, sir.
Ron Proctor, the Clark Planetarium. I'm just curious to see how many of you are in animation or film, so I raise your hand. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And how many of you have $5? $5. Any other questions for myself or for the committee? You can see we'll be around for a while networking. The food's going to disappear at about just after 7:15, something like that. So I don't think it's going to vanish. I mean, somebody will come here and take it away. So it's paid for, so please eat as much as you can once we finish talking. Not to be early, so I'm not encouraging bad behavior. I'm just saying if you'd like more food, it's available for you. And remember, please find us, like us, follow us, join us, and share, because this organization, this community only happens with your help and support. So next up's our networking, a great opportunity for you to mingle and meet other creators of digital entertainment. Hopefully you've heard from a bunch of people tonight, and I would say, please don't be afraid to go up to someone that you don't know and say, and what do you do? It's not creepy, it's why we're here. So I'd like to end by saying many thanks to Steve Taylor, the wonderful Steve Taylor, all of our Hive at Night presenters, to our sponsors, the University of Utah, for the great food. Thank you, Mother Craig. And to Grow Utah, Zions Bank, and of course to our committee. And thank you all for coming. And hopefully you'll have time to talk with us now in our networking, but if not, we'll see you next month. A couple of jobs are going to be up on the board here now for those that might be interested in openings. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much.